Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about state formation and failure in political sciences. So the modern state is a human community with the monopoly of force within a given territory. There's four different definitions, but we're just going to consider the Weber one for now. The nation state is a single nation that predominates the social, legal, demographic boundaries of the state. And a stateless nation is such as the Kurds in Iraq or the Roma in Central and Eastern Europe, a nation without a fixed territory. The origins of the state can either be predatory or contractarian. Sorry. So, predatory view is that the states hold enough power to exercise effective control over their citizens and making the tax so high so it's no different than state of nature. And contractarian would mean that, according to Hobbes, the state of nature is the way to go. So everyone would be better off if everyone behaved well. But given that being an attacker would be much better than being the victim, the result would be endemic theft. And the Nash equilibria is the second worst outcome for both players. Now, as we said, rules engage in four different activities: state-making, war-making, extraction of resources, and protection of their citizens. The strategy is the best outcome given the other players. PSI, Fund for Peace indicators, and some failed states are Afghanistan and Yemen. So now we go on. Okay, so the state success in the modern day depends on long-term mobilization of assets, that there is no foreign aid benefits, so nobody can have influence over your state, and states that are dependent on oil and natural resources are less likely to succeed because they are rich enough that they do not need extra tax revenue, so they exploit their citizens and tend to be a dictatorship or an autocracy rather than a democracy. That's why, for example, Saudi Arabia is not a democracy. And for example, some country that's less rich in natural oil is a democracy, such as, for example, Spain or Italy. So the process of state making is as follows. First, you had the state of nature, then you had the feudal lords, then the rivals, and then they fought. So then they decided it's better to be a stationary bandit than to kind of roam the land, because the people would only produce enough so that they would be fed and not more, because they knew that it was going to be stolen. So that's why we have feudal lords that kind of had a proportional take every month from all citizens. So that's how those lords emerged into the state. And then we had the military, education, and other important institutions that we have today in the state. Now let's consider some social indicators which imply the risk of failure of a state. There are three: economic, political, and social. The economic would be uneven economic development, such as the rural and urban parts of a country, and the economic decline when GDP decreases. They cannot invest in education and other sectors. The political ones would be factionalized elites, external influences, public services, police legitimacy or corruption, and human rights press. So if the press does not have freedom to publish what they want, and if, for example, there are external influences due to donations that can kind of perpetuate the motion of the state and not actually lead to development, but to failure and to the interest of that foreign actor. And factionalized elites may be the rival politicians that have different aims other than the lawmakers of the state. And then social indicators, we can have refugees, such as human flight, group grievances. So as I said, again, refugees that are either immigrating or emigrating, and other demographic indicators such as food, hygiene, and other factors. We have those countries that are transitioning to a democracy, and the three most important factors are an independent judiciary, long-term mobile assets, and that the country is not dependent on natural resources, which we mentioned before. Now let's consider the second topic, so democracy and autocracy. A democracy is a system of government by population, and an autocracy is a system of government by one person. They can either be procedures-based or outcomes-based. So procedures-based, necessary conditions, and outcomes-based, the institutions present. There are three types of dictatorships: a military dictatorship, for example, South and Central America in 1970, a single-party dictatorship, which is China today, some assume, and a personalistic dictatorship such as the Cuba by Fidel Castro. What is an autocracy? It's classified based on institutional designs such as executives and competition of the ruling party. There can be authoritarianism and totalitarianism. Authoritarianism implies no political pluralism, so there is no competition on the political stage. There is extensive mobilization of the military and the army, and there is no social and economic pluralism. And totalitarianism means that there is limited mobilization, so there less. They tend to mobilize their army less, and they have limited political pluralism. So basically, it's one man for all, and there is extensive social and economic pluralism. So that means that they look at their GDP, they create institutions to kind of make their people believe that it's the right state type for them. So there's three indicators for democracy: DAL, Freedom House, and Polity 4. DAL is based on the level of inclusion and level of contestation. Contestation means freedom of speech, press, expression, and inclusion, that the voting age is low. There are property rights, so you can protect what you have. And there is info about the ruling party. And then the Freedom House one, there are political rights and civil rights. Basically, you have political pluralism, a functioning government, you have the rule of law and individual rights, similar to Dahl's definition. And then the polity 4 goes from -10 to +10, with autocracy, anocracy, and democracy being the three types. And it basically takes into account the regulation of chief executive requirements, of participation and competitiveness, so that there's an opposition, and executive constraints. And the argument for democracy is lower taxation results in higher tax revenue, which results in higher economic growth. What's good about a democracy is that you have the rule of law and enforcers, there's an independent courts and police. More people make long-term investments as they know that their property will be protected, and those stable property rights increase economic growth. Now, the argument against the democracy is the Melton-Richard model from 1981, which states that rich exert less effort and that there is an equal distribution of tax, and dictatorships give higher influence to elites, and each citizen must pay tax on income. So, democracy, in their opinion, makes a poor influence, and that equals large support groups. So basically, a democracy is better for the poor and a dictatorship is better for the rich. Now, the selectorate theory is basically considering the performance of leaders against their support and the risk ratio. So V equals V over VC. So support for leader equals the risk ratio, which tells us the performance. It can be poor when both of these factors are going down, middling when the risk ratio is higher and the support is low, and high performance when they are both high. Now, there are two causes of democracy, either economic or cultural, and from the Lipset early modernization theory, we say that wealth is correlated to democracy and it's primitive, so the primitive sectors switch to mature over time. Now, the variant of modernization theory says that the changes in socioeconomic structures of the state and not income itself lead to democracy is what we use today. So we study three waves of democratization. The first one from 1922 to 1942, the second one from 1952 to 1976, and the third one, which is still ongoing, from 1974. And then you have the stages of democratization that can be either top down or bottom up. So rules themselves give up power. That means top down, from the top to the bottom, from the rules to the people. And the external can be bottom up. So you have a foreign actor that kind of kicks out the ruling party, and people put a new leader. So that's bottom up. Now, a democratic culture can be either primordialist or constructivist. Primordialist says that the culture comes before democratic values. So it is not a given, and one must actually have it in their culture. So you cannot become a democracy if you're a dictatorship now. And the constructivist says that citizens are unaware of the political system, and that you can actually become a democracy. And then you have the parochial one and the participant one. So parochial one is that the citizens are passive participants, and participant culture is that there is involvement in political life of every citizen. So you construct a democracy in either of the two ways. Now, a civic culture is a culture in which there is interpersonal trust, residual societal change. So you cannot just become a democracy overnight. There needs to be uh, months or even years of preparation and efficacy to believe that citizens can actually influence the political decision, so that there is at least a level of freedom in the political assignment process. So this was the first part, and I'm going to upload the second part later today. I hope it was fun for you guys. And sorry that it's so long, but there's just too much to cover, and this is really the basics. So good luck, and thank you for watching.